I haven't heard anyone talk about Elio. It's a Pixar release. It's an original Pixar film. You would think there'd be a bit more buzz around it, but I haven't heard anyone talking about this film. And when I went to see it on opening day, it wasn't massively packed. But for a film that I think a lot of people are underestimating, what I found was a surprisingly charming and heartfelt story.
Yeah, it was just so weird that no one is talking about a new Pixar film. Pixar, they've always come out with such emotional stories that just make you wonder about the imagination behind the stories. Over the recent years, Pixar Elemental did surprisingly well at the
Mm.
box office. And then Elio now, I thought it's going to perform much better, unless there's an effect on Elio that's going to get the billions at the box office or something. Yeah, what a surprising, lovely film.
Yeah, I think the thing with Elemental is that it had legs, and that really surprised everyone because 2023, the cinema landscape, there's so much choice. You had your Barbenheimers and your Mission Impossibles and your Spider-Verses and your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Asteroid City. There's a little bit for everyone, and Elemental was kind of poised to just sink like a stone, but it didn't, and it continued building. And I think that that is a testament to not just dumping a film on streaming a couple weeks after it comes out and giving it a chance to really soar. And I think that this film, I hope that it's given that same chance. You know, it's come out in a time where there's a lot of blockbusters out right now, but I hope that good word of mouth will spread. It's a lovely film, and I think that it
Yeah.
is worth people taking the time to see it. And I can't wait to talk about it, so cue the music.
This is the Out of Time Film Podcast, where your hosts Tom and John discuss everything from blockbuster films to TV and games like there's no tomorrow.
So, Elio, I have a stat here immediately.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I saw this on Twitter. It's from Cosmic Marvel. I have no idea if it's true or not. But Elio earned $3 million from Thursday previews at the domestic box office. And for comparison, Elemental got 2.4 million and Wish got 2.3 million. Now, obviously, that's domestic and that's just previews. We don't know what opening weekend is going to be. We're still there. We're still in the weekend. But that's somewhat encouraging, right?
Yeah, I think once this gets traction, especially at this time right now, this is a massive comparison to 28 years later, which is overperforming at the box office. But this is a kids' film. This is just like an entire different league. So
Different audiences.
imagine just going in and you're just like, oh boy, I can't wait to see Elio. And you just get into 28 years later and you're just like, what the
Oh
heck is
my
this?
God.
What the heck is
Yeah,
this? That would
don't
be
take
funny.
your kids to see 28 years later. Don't do it.
No, don't do it. Don't do it, guys. But I gotta say, this was a nice film. I thought, is Pixar gonna drop the ball? No, I think it stayed consistent. I loved the emotional beats for the story. The humor's pretty good as well. There were some bits that I loved. The other thing I loved was the design for the aliens in the movie. Oh yeah, we haven't talked about what the movie is. The movie is about this kid called Elio who is obsessed with aliens, loves space, who lives with his aunt, and he sends a message to space, and then the aliens heard his message and they want him to be the ambassador for this space universe. I believe the emotional core of the story explores isolation and space as well. I think space is terrifying, but space is lovely as well. You know, you just like look around in the stars, you're just like, wow, it's so big and scary at the same time.
I thought it was really great that the film was tapping into these ideas of loneliness and attributing that to the vastness of space. It uses elements of history. You get a big connection to the 1977. What's it called?
The Voyager
Yes.
disc.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
was the vinyl that was sent to space
yeah, yeah, yeah,
with
that's
loads
right.
of decoded messages.
The film doesn't really go into this, but it does establish the Voyager satellite as a point through which aliens make contact. And the idea of this satellite that's quite literally just saying hi, just saying, hello, we are here, we are out there. That is a really good way to jump off because the whole film is about loneliness. It's about making friends and finding people who can relate to you and tying that in with the idea of Earth essentially opening up our arms to whatever is out there and giving that opportunity. I love that stuff. That's so great. I would have liked for it to be even more impactful. The thing with this movie is that there's a lot of the goofs, a lot of the gags, a lot of the comedy that isn't bad, but there's a lot of it. And I feel like the poignance and the nuance and the emotion gets lost. And I already know there are people thinking, oh, but it's a kid's movie. Yes, of course it is. But as recent as last year, we had The Wild Robot, which is an example of a film that does not skip out on the emotions, that is completely it is amazing. This is brilliant. This is a great film.
You were just lost for words for that. 'Cause,
I was just thinking about everything that film, and it was hilarious and it was emotional at the same time. This film, and I think this is a symptom of a lot of recent Pixar, it feels afraid to go into some of those really hard-hitting stuff that we have had from Pixar in the past. Because when this film is doing some of that stuff, it got me a little bit. My eyes were welling up with tears.
Yeah, they wonderfully tie the isolation with aliens and the whole thing with Elio. There were some bits of the humor was great, but I want to explore more about those deeper themes of what the characters are going through and how we experience isolation. It's a universal thing. Do the aliens feel isolated as well? Is there more things to see in this universe?
Yeah, for sure. And there are really funny moments. The biggest laugh from me in the film was when Elio is put in a spaceship and is trying really desperately to drive it. He activates all these stupid little things, and one of them gives him a mint. And then we cut back to one of the alien ambassadors who goes, "Oh, he found the mint." Just really wacky, stupid out there. I thought that was fun.
My favorite one was one of those aliens, the guy that looks like a stone and has like a circular face.
Oh, I love that guy.
That guy, he's my favorite. There's one scene where Qui-Gon flies off and he makes a hole in the roof, and then the guy just says, why did he make another hole? Because obviously there was a hole in the first place. And it's just so funny. I just love those like subtle, it doesn't have to be too slapstick. Sometimes I'm all for slapstick, but it's just witty dialogue that I love.
That guy made out of stone was so cool, and we barely get any.
Can we just call him Guy Made Out of Stones? Can we just call him that?
We can call him Guy Made Out of Stone. Yeah,
Guy Made Out of Stone.
That's not a mouthful at all.
No. Imagine you see that on the Pixar merchandise, just somewhere in the Disney store.
Guy Made Out of Stone.
He's just there.
I think that is his Catholic name, yeah. I love the idea of all these different creatures that we get. There's one that is, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a cross between a flamingo and a giraffe, and it has like balls on its head that just shoots out balls, because of course it does. And there's a lot that are flowy, kind of remind you of fish. They throw a whole universe at you here, and there's just not enough time to really get to know any of it. Apart from Glorden's species, which we do get to spend a little bit of time of and understand how they tick. When Elio is introduced to the world, they show him so many things. It's like, here's a synthetic material maker, here is all the knowledge in the universe, here is a food maker, here is the toilet, here is a cloning machine. They do it all. They give you literally every single thing in such a fashion. It's such a stark contrast to those early scenes, which are really insular and really thought-provoking. I think this film is at its best when it's on Earth, because you can feel the weight of the cosmos, and there's some really nice shots that are extremely wide, and you can see just how lonely everyone is. I really love that stuff. When this film finished, I was watching the credits, and I noticed that there are 7 people who wrote this film. 7. 4 people who did the story and 3 separate people who did the screenplay, if I'm remembering correctly. That's a lot of people. That's too many people. You're already stretching it if you've got like 3 people, what, 7? You can definitely tell that 7 people worked on this. By all accounts, the production was a bit of a nightmare. This film got delayed many, many times. Cast were replaced. The story seems to go in different directions. They make it out, and they make it out with a decent enough package, but I do think you can tell this film is at war with itself and has a lot of different things that it wants to touch upon. It needed focusing.
Yeah, it just needed a clear path, because I feel like once you go to the alien world, that's where you can see where everybody's ideas wanted to stick. And that's hard when you got 7 people who are the main writers for the story. And yes, I remember a lot of delays, and that must have been a nightmare trying to make this story. I think maybe that's why it wasn't marketed as much, because maybe that went over the production budget. I think that must have been like an entire free-for-all arena.
Yeah, for sure. It's something you see a lot just in studio movies in general. I think Disney's animated output across Disney Animation Studios and Pixar has suffered recently. Moana 2 is a great example. Wish is another example.
Yes.
Let's Stop, maybe.
Moana 2? Like, what was that about?
I
Like
don't
they
know.
just, but
That's fair.
this is
I
something that I
think,
want to see more of with Elio.
yeah,
This is something
yeah.
like great. They obviously went with something and they had something in mind with this.
It's just very much a case of have faith in the stories that these people want to tell. This is directed by three people, but one of those people is Domee Shi. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, who did
Yes.
Bao, Oscar
Yes.
award-winning Bao. And it's not fair to attribute the best moments in this film to one person, but the best moments of this film, you felt the stuff that worked so much about Bao. And I really liked the relationship between Elio and his aunt. Spoiler territory here, worth seeing for a fun time and some decent emotions. But the thing that we found at the beginning is that Elio's parents have recently died and he is living with his aunt, and she is struggling to figure out how to raise him and how to connect with him, and she gets exasperated, and this is not how she wanted her life to go. And I loved just watching that unfold because there felt something so real about that. The first scene is her desperately trying to get him to be enthusiastic about something, and he just wanders off on his own, not feeling wanted, not feeling like any human interaction is good enough for him, which very much sets up this idea of him wanting to go to space. But there are so many really nice moments. I mean, very clearly, Elio is an autistic kid who doesn't know how to express his own emotions here and has this fixation on space that his aunt sees as an issue. She wants to control his creativity. The aunt does not get enough screen time, but what we do see is her wanting to show that she loves this boy, but also not knowing at all what she's doing with it. There's a scene on the beach when Elio and his aunt reunite after he's been in space and he's been cast out and he is at his lowest moment and she is at her lowest moment. And they just finally understand each other and understand their shared feeling of loneliness in that moment. He feels like nobody wants him, and she feels that she's found no place in her life and in her position. And that was great. That really made me feel something.
Yeah, as a British man, I felt something inside my soul.
That never happens.
Yeah, that was really great to see the isolation from the aunt as well, just trying to raise Elio. There are ways to keep his interests going, but it is exhausting when there is someone obsessed with space and aliens. Well, obviously, the emotional core is that his parents were obviously involved in a lot of space stuff.
I don't know if I got that.
I don't know. I wondered how his interests got into space, especially at the science museum, because you get to see
Right.
him holding two astronauts. And I'm
Right,
wondering
okay, yeah.
how that got into that emotional story. So it just
Right.
leaves you thinking about the subtext for all of those things that must have happened when his parents died. And yeah, I agree. I think there should be more scenes with the aunt. I think that was just great to have her deal with Elio. And there was this weird storyline that was happening with the clone. That was a great Terminator 2 reference in the movie.
Yes.
And I loved it. I teared up because that scene in Terminator 2 is forever peak in my mind. It's just like, that means so much to me. It's cool. Yeah, with the going back to the clone, I think that was good, but again, it just didn't really go towards the emotional core.
Yeah, they skipped over the entire conversation where the aunt finds out where the real Elio is. The clone is like, we need to talk. And then the next time we see them, it's on the beach. We don't get to see her reaction and what that does to her in the moment. I thought that it just feels like a crucial scene there. There's also a scene where Elio is shown what the clone and his aunt are getting up to, and he sees them happy and having chum time, and it makes him feel even more unwanted. That was just a really, really great scene. But what I absolutely loved was that the aunt is not an idiot. She immediately knows this is not my nephew, and that is such a breath of fresh air. How many films have you seen where like a parent or a carer is presented as so stupid, and it's like, these people, yeah, they're not perfect, but they're not morons. It's like, in Ferris Bueller, Ferris rigs up the whole mannequin to pretend that he's asleep, and his mum's just like, it's like, come on, man, like that's not how that works.
It's a stupid stereotype, I think.
I love this person who literally was an astronaut trainee, who is a scientist, who is obviously logical. She is very much like, that's not my nephew, and she's trying to figure it out. That was really great. And then to see her and Elio working together to escape the planet, that is such a fantastic scene. They're working together. Earlier in the film, they set up all this debris in space, all these satellites. And so they're dodging debris. They're using certain things from throughout the movie, like the radio and some other characters to kind of help them fly. And they're working as a team. But crucially, there's this bit where they go out of range to the people that they're communicating with. And then other people from across Earth, like other countries, are like helping them navigate their way. And it's just this beautiful moment of Earth coming together for a sole purpose, much like how that Voyager satellite was all of Earth coming together. The film's about loneliness. The film is about feeling unwanted, but right in that climactic moment, Earth shows that these people are not lonely. They are not alone. I love that. Just people helping people. If you go on the news right now, you will see the stark contrast to that. You will not see people helping people. And I think that an unfortunate part of the human condition is that there's a lot of conflict, a lot of anger, but I love that this film presents people helping people. That's thumbs up from me.
Yeah. Always choose kindness, everybody.
It's almost like we need some sort of Superman.
Ooh.
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 I see what you did there. Yeah, I love that entire bit. It just gave that importance of just supporting and helping. And I think that's just so cool to see that in action. With Glowden, oh yeah, there was a whole story with Glowden
Oh yeah.
that we forgot about. Did this thing happen again? Because, okay, marketing-wise, with Elemental, they did this thing with the character.
What's he
Did they
called?
do
Like,
the same thing for
Claude.
Glowden as well?
Maybe he's much more prevalent in the marketing than he is in the movie itself.
That's the thing. What is this?
It's so strange because he feels like the secondary protagonist and he's
Yeah.
introduced at like the 1 hour mark.
We've come again into this loop about they have so many ideas. It's great to have that breadth of aliens and design, and you just feel a bit overwhelmed by it. It's a good storyline, I have to say. For the answer, that's more what I'm invested in.
Yeah, I do like seeing Elio and Glorden having a bit of fun, being kids, experiencing. I like that Elio makes a friend, and there's this really great idea of Glorden is this little squishy, little worm-like guy, and he looks threatening, but he's not. And it's tradition in his culture to be trapped in this armor when you reach a certain age, and he's terrified of this. He doesn't want to. He won't be able to play or get wrapped up in his little cobweb blanket. He can't express himself anymore. It's almost like how Elio is sent to that army boot camp kind of thing by his aunt. It's restricting young people's creativity. I think that's a really good idea, but it's really understated. It's barely in it. You're right. It's another symptom of all the things going on in this film.
Yeah, but I did like the one moment with Qui-Gon saving his son, put him to this spider web. There was this one detail that I loved from that, how Glorden remembered his mum putting into this bowl as well. And I think that's great to link that emotional, like he misses his mum. That was great to have that connection between father and son.
Yeah, seeing the dad rip off his armor is really, really cool. Again, the designs are pretty good, but I do have to criticize one thing, and that is the animation. Now, it's impeccably animated.
Yeah.
There isn't a flaw in the animation, but I'm getting a bit tired of this style for Pixar. Like, I understand.
I agree.
Good.
I agree.
Okay.
Because I was like, at the beginning of the movie, it's like, oh, it's the same style again. This is nothing new. I just don't feel like... Again, Spider-Verse, when you see the different styles that come in, but this in particular, if you look back at the backlog of Pixar, it's kind of the same.
Obviously, Spider-Verse is the one that you first think of, but we're now 7 years away from Spider-Verse. We've seen the ripple effect of Spider-Verse. You've got your Puss in Boots, you've got your bad guys, your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the Wild Robot, and even Wish to an extent. And I understand that Pixar wants to have their own signature style, but it's kind of ugly. And why is everything so round? And why is everything so textureless almost? Pixar, I would like them to mix up their animation a little bit. But, I mean, okay, so coming up on Pixar, we have... Next year, we have Hoppers. I'm not going to do the voice the whole way. Next year, we've got Hoppers. And in 2027, we've got Gatto. Both extremely promising original films.
Gatto, yes.
Right?
I'm seated for Gatto.
And we have one image of Gatto, and it looks like a different art style. It looks 2D and expressionistic and really cool, set in Venice. Oh my god, I hope it's amazing. And I hope people show up for them. We also have Toy Story 5 and Incredibles 3, but I hope people show up just as much for the original stuff. They're not doing nearly as well as the sequels and the franchise stuff, and it's the same story across the industry, and it's tiring. So I just hope that Pixar does have a bright future of original stories.
Yeah, it's hard when there are people that yearn for more sequels. But honestly, with two guys that just want original stuff from Pixar, but also other animation studios that
Hmm.
try to shy away from making sequels because it just gets tiring. But yeah, I'm glad this is something that I saw. It's a really lovely film.
Absolutely. What are you going to give it out of 10?
An 8 or
Oh, right,
7.
cool. I can't decide between 6 or 7. I think I'm going to go for 6. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you are listening on YouTube and you liked it, you can like and subscribe if you want to see more. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, you can follow and give us a 5-star review if you think we are worthy. And next week, John, the summer fully begins. We are talking about the original Superman from 1978.
Yes, the summer begins. I'm so excited. And it's hot over here. It's
It
humid.
is
We're
very hot.
dying.
Yeah, yeah.
So if we do survive with this heat, do tune
Oh,
in.
God.
Tune in for next week.
Yes.
So yes.
Yeah, yeah. And you can send us an email, tell us your thoughts on the original Superman, and we'll answer it right here on the podcast next week if you email us at outstimefilmpod@gmail.com.
Yes, and you can follow us on Instagram at Out of Time Film Pod to see our incredible thumbnails from Zain Afzal, on Twitter for more thoughts from Tom and me, and TikTok to see edited clips, which are all also on Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts, and you can find links to that all in the description below. Thanks to Jones-Meyer for the excellent theme, and Ronan Phillips for vocals as always, and I think that's everything. Take what you're given.
Give nothing back.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.